The Awakening of Shadows in the year 2173, humanity has expanded far beyond Earth. Colonies stretch across the moons of Jupiter, and terraforming projects have begun on distant planets in the Alpha Centauri system. Despite these achievements, the scars of the First War, the great interstellar conflict that nearly destroyed humanity, still linger. Captain Kara Vasquez stood in the observation deck of the Intrepid, the flagship of the United Earth Fleet. She had seen firsthand the devastation caused by the First War, its echoes reverberating through every corner of human society. Her grandfather had been one of the war's last generals, and his stories of that dark time had shaped Kara's worldview. Though the war had ended nearly a century ago, the wounds it left were still raw. Kara's mission was simple: to investigate a mysterious distress signal from a long-abandoned space station located on the fringes of human-occupied space. It was a station that had once been a critical military outpost during the war, but after the conflict, it had been forgotten and left to rot. Now, a strange transmission, once thought to be an old relic, had been detected again. Faint, but clear. Kara knew that whatever lay behind the signal, it was bound to stir up the ghosts of the past. The descent into darkness. As the Intrepid made its way to the coordinates of the distress signal, Kara couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The war had left humanity fractured, divided between factions and ideologies that had once been unified under one banner. The old alliances had crumbled, and now, a fragile peace held the galaxy together. But deep down, Kara knew that peace was always temporary. The ghosts of war had a way of returning when least expected. The Intrepid docked with the derelict station, and Kara led an away team to explore the abandoned complex. The station's corridors were dark, cold, and silent, eerily so. As they ventured deeper into its heart, they discovered the remnants of old technology, decayed and rusted. But it wasn't the state of the station that unnerved them. It was the strange energy readings emanating from deep within the station's core. It was as if the station itself was still alive, holding on to something from the past. The away team reached the central chamber, where a single, flickering hologram activated at their presence. It was a recording from the war, a message from a long-dead commander, speaking directly to the crew of the station. "If you're seeing this," the commander's voice crackled, "then the war isn't over. The enemy has found us. They've found you. The First War was just the beginning. The real battle is yet to come." The message ended abruptly, leaving more questions than answers. Kara's heart raced as she realized what they had uncovered. The First War wasn't truly over. It had merely been postponed. And something, or someone, was waiting to ignite the next phase of the conflict. The rise of the forgotten enemy. The Intrepid returned to Earth's orbit with the disturbing news. Kara briefed the High Command on their findings, but her superiors seemed unperturbed. They dismissed the discovery as an old security breach, a remnant of a war that had been buried long ago. Yet Kara felt a deep unease. The message had been clear. This wasn't just a forgotten enemy. It was an enemy waiting for the right moment to strike. Days turned into weeks, and Kara's concerns grew. She began her own investigation into the events surrounding the First War, searching for patterns, hidden connections, and any remnants of the conflict that might have been overlooked. It wasn't long before she uncovered something chilling. Secret military operations had continued even after the official end of the war. Programs that had been kept hidden from the public eye. These operations were not just defensive. They were preparing for a new kind of warfare, one that used ancient technology from before the war. The enemy was not just human. It was something much older, much more dangerous. She found references to an ancient race, long thought to be extinct, that had been the true architects of the war. The First War had not been a fight between humans, but a struggle between humanity and a race of beings known as the Arathis. The Arathis had created advanced weapons, biological agents, and artificial intelligence systems that had been deployed during the war. When the conflict ended, the Arathis retreated into the shadows, but Kara learned that their technology had survived. and it had been waiting for the right moment to awaken once again. The echoes of Power Kara's findings were met with skepticism by the military, but she refused to back down. She knew that the enemy they faced wasn't a conventional one. It was a force that operated from the shadows, manipulating the very fabric of human society. And as she dug deeper, she began to see traces of the Arathis influence everywhere, in corporate entities, rogue military factions, and even in the underground movements that had emerged after the war. The more Kara uncovered, the more she realized that the true power of the Arathis wasn't just in their technology, it was in their ability to manipulate the human psyche. They had sown the seeds of distrust and division during the war, pitting humanity against itself, and now they were doing it again. The factions that had once been united in the face of the Arathis were now scattered and fractured, unable to recognize the true threat before them. Kara made the difficult decision to reach out to old allies from the war, former generals and strategists who had fought the Arathis in the First War. One by one, they confirmed her fears. The Arathis were not gone. They had simply gone into hiding, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And that moment, Kara realized, was now. The true test was coming, and Kara would have to rally humanity's scattered forces once more. But could they unite in time to face an enemy that had been playing the long game for centuries? The battle for unity. Kara's efforts to unite the fractured factions of humanity were met with resistance. Political tensions had escalated in the decades following the First War, and many leaders were unwilling to set aside their differences to confront a threat that seemed distant and abstract. But Kara knew that without unity, they would fall prey to the Arathis once more. She traveled to different colonies, speaking to leaders and civilians alike, urging them to put aside their differences. She shared her findings, showing them the remnants of Arathis technology that had been hidden in plain sight. As she spoke, something began to shift. The realization that the Arathis were not just a relic of the past, but a present threat, began to take hold. The tides began to turn. Slowly but surely, the factions that had once fought each other began to see the bigger picture. The unity they needed was not just political. It was a shared sense of purpose, a desire to preserve humanity's future. As the different colonies came together, Kara led the charge to rebuild a coalition strong enough to face the Arathis head-on. But unity was not enough. They would need more than just resolve. They would need to understand the true nature of their enemy and the weapons they had used to wage war. Kara and her team began to reverse engineer Arathis technology, hoping to unlock the secrets that would give humanity an edge in the coming conflict. The final confrontation. As the unified forces of humanity prepared for war, Kara stood at the helm of the Intrepid, ready to lead the charge into the heart of Arathis territory. The battle that awaited them would not be fought in the trenches or on the surface of a planet. It would be fought in the depths of space, where the Arathis had hidden their greatest weapon, a massive dormant AI network that had been dormant for centuries, waiting for the right signal to activate. The final battle was brutal. The Arathis had engineered an army of drones and warships, but they had underestimated humanity's resilience and ingenuity. Kara's team had learned to harness the ancient technology, turning it against the Arathis and disrupting their AI network. The tide of battle began to shift, and for the first time in centuries, humanity had the upper hand. In the heart of the Arathis stronghold, Kara confronted the last of the Arathis leaders. The battle was not just physical, it was ideological. The Arathis had believed that humanity was a species doomed to self-destruct, incapable of learning from its mistakes. Kara's victory wasn't just in defeating them. It was in proving that humanity could rise above its past, learn from it, and fight for a future where the echoes of the First War would no longer haunt them. The Arathis were defeated, their influence shattered, but the cost of victory was high. The scars of the First War would never fully heal, but humanity had learned something invaluable. The true strength of humanity was not in its technology or its military might. It was in its ability to unite, to adapt, and to fight for a future that was greater than the sum of its past.